Hey guys, let's get more news about Steelers, but first, don't forget to subscribe and leave your like. Najee Harris gives cryptic Steelers future answer after wild card loss versus Ravens. With contract negotiations seemingly at a standstill between the Pittsburgh Steelers and running back Najee Harris, their loss to the Baltimore Ravens in the wild card round didn't appear to help his case of re-signing, per Taylor Rook's interview posted by Blitzburg on X. Najee Harris closed his media availability with the question that was, "Have you put much thought into whether or not you want to stay with the Steelers?" And he said, "I have not put much thought into that, at all," Rooks reported. After being selected with the 24th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, Harris has produced 4 straight 1,000-yard seasons. While some might consider that less impressive, given the 17-game season, it's nothing to scoff at. However, even with these 1,000-yard seasons, his future with the team isn't guaranteed. Not only are the two parties seemingly not close on a contract extension, but Harris' Steelers state following their loss on Wild Card Weekend appeared to frustrate him. While the dust was still settling after their loss to the Ravens in the Wild Card round, Harris had some internal frustrations that seemed to have boiled over in his media availability on Saturday, as reported by Rooks. "I think the most interesting comments came from a visibly frustrated Najee Harris, who said that the guys have been saying things in the locker room that he didn't necessarily want to say on camera," Rook said, but he felt like throughout the losing streak, a lot of guys were letting what the media was saying infiltrate the locker room. Najee Harris told Taylor Rooks after the game that the guys have been saying things in the locker room that he necessarily didn't want to say on camera, but he felt that during their losing streak he felt what the media was saying about the Steelers infiltrate the locker room. Since Harris refused to say exactly what players were saying, there's no way of knowing exactly what was said. However, considering how negative the media can be in their reporting, there's plenty of reason to understand why Harris was frustrated. And after his 3 wild card exits as a member of the Steelers over 4 seasons, the former Alabama running back could test free agency, joining a less chaotic team within the locker room. Steelers predicted to make multiple offseason moves at quarterback. After the Pittsburgh Steelers dropped their wild card matchup with the Baltimore Ravens over the weekend, all eyes immediately shifted toward the offseason. Pittsburgh has some major questions to answer in the coming weeks and months, whether we're talking about head coach Mike Tomlin, the quarterback position, or even the rest of the coaching staff. Everyone is going to have their gut reaction to the loss and what exactly went wrong for the Steelers this season. Plenty of predictions and theories will come out until moves are actually made. But one thing is undoubtedly certain: the Steelers need to figure out the most important position in the game. ESPN's Benjamin Solak made his big Steelers offseason prediction in a recent column, noting that he believes Pittsburgh is going to re-sign quarterback Russell Wilson to a short-term deal this spring. But that's not the only prediction he made in regards to the Steelers' quarterback room. "I also predict Pittsburgh will draft a quarterback in the first 3 rounds in April," Solak finished. "That's an interesting thought, but the real question is, will a quarterback be picked earlier rather than later? Where the quarterback is selected is going to have an impact on the immediate and long-term future of this club." While re-signing Wilson does make sense on one hand, there's a larger issue at hand. Mike Tomlin appears to be safe after the team's wild card loss, but that doesn't excuse the fact that he has been at the helm of a 6-game postseason losing streak. Many fans are tired of settling for good enough, but not good enough to win when it counts. If Tomlin wants to ensure his job is safe for years to come, would it make sense for the Steelers to go out and make a big move at quarterback? This year's draft class isn't necessarily a strong one when it comes to the quarterback position, but Pittsburgh could at least try. They're slotted in at the number 21 pick in the first round. It's probably impossible for them to move up high enough to draft Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward, but there's another prospect garnering a lot of steam. Maybe someone like Ole Miss quarterback Jackson Dart could be within range for the Steelers. He very well could be a draft riser and find his way into the top 10 or top 15, which means the Steelers would have to trade up for Dart. But, making a bold move like that might just be enough to help Tomlin stick around even longer. If you look at some of the recent draft narratives, Dart's name is one that continues to rise. Some experts even like him more than Sanders or Ward because of his intangibles at the position. Now, Dart is no guarantee by any means. However, a big, bold move like this would be one to catch fans off guard and potentially help secure Tomlin's job beyond 2025. Ryan Clark cautions Steelers about moving on from Mike Tomlin. You could be the Jacksonville Jaguars. After 8 seasons without a playoff victory, including 5 straight one-and-done exits, the future of Mike Tomlin is a hot topic of conversation. While the Steelers aren't going to move on from Tomlin this year, the idea that someone else might be better suited to lead the football team is still a topic worth exploring. On NFL Live on Monday, former Steelers and current ESPN analyst Ryan Clark likened Tomlin to a man who gives a woman everything she wants, yet she doesn't feel bliss. He also questioned whether Tomlin is underperforming in the postseason or if he's maximizing his talent early in the year. Is Mike Tomlin overachieving early on in the season, or is he underachieving in the playoffs? Is this team that always seems prepared in big games during the season, but has fallen behind by at least 14 in their last 5 playoff trips, are they not ready? Are they not maintaining the message from the meeting room to the football field? Clark said if the Steelers feel Mike Tomlin isn't getting the players ready, then it's worth having the conversation if someone else will be better. But he also added that it's a risky move because the Steelers could wind up in a much worse situation. And if you feel like that, you have to have the conversation. Can we have a higher ceiling? But here is what you're gonna have to deal with. We could also end up being the Jacksonville Jaguars. This team doesn't know what it feels like to only win 5 games, to win 6 games, to be the Las Vegas Raiders this year. And I believe that's a tough decision you have to make when Lombardi trophies are the most important thing in your life. Pittsburgh hasn't had a losing season since 2003, and since then, whether under Bill Cowher or Tomlin, they've always been a competitive team. But the lack of playoff success under Tomlin has grown stale, and that's what led to the idea that the Steelers might be better off moving on. It would undoubtedly be a risk if it were a move the Steelers considered making for exactly the reasons Clark outlined. If the Steelers make the wrong hire, they could find themselves just being a bad football team instead of continually competing for the playoffs. The flip side of that argument is that if Pittsburgh makes the right hire, they can become one of the best teams in the league again. They could compete for Super Bowls instead of being a team where fans know they can probably safely schedule a mid-January vacation after an early playoff exit. Mike Tomlin provides a high floor for the Steelers, but at this point, it's worth questioning if their ceiling is capped. You could also argue that Mike Tomlin is maximizing the talent the Steelers have to get them to the postseason. They haven't really had good quarterback play since Ben Roethlisberger retired outside of a few stretches this season. They've had a shaky run game, and their defensive talent fell flat down the stretch. A new head coach might not be able to win with Tomlin's consistency, given the talent on the roster, and the Steelers need to assess how much of their issues are Tomlin's problems or issues with their roster construction. It's a moot point for this offseason since Mike Tomlin will likely still be Pittsburgh's head coach come kickoff in 2025, but it does outline some of the concerns Art Rooney too might have about moving on from Tomlin. There's an inherent risk whenever you fire a head coach, but if Pittsburgh's playoff futility continues another season, it might be a risk worth taking if it isn't already. And you fan? What do you think of the situation of Mike Tomlin? Leave your opinion in the comments.